Hi there everyone, welcome back to Dandelion Delphi. We're looking at the Exemplar of 2018 question 2.1, which deals with SQL, so possibly some of the grade 11s could join this lesson as well. So in this exemplar, they are showing us the design of the database inside of the question, where usually it can be found at the end of the paper. They've also not given us a table or a screenshot of the design view, but rather they've explained to us what each field means. So the player ID, for example, is a unique code containing 5 characters, and then the name of the player and the email and the date of birth. They've also given us the data types here at the end, so that's important to take note of. Then they gave us some example data from TBL players, and that is the screenshot here below. Then we have the table TBL games, and one player is going to play many games. You can see that the player ID will correspond here with the primary key of the TBL players. So this here would be our foreign key, and then just take note of game date, which is a date time data type, and the duration is in minutes, and that is integers as well as the score. Now's your time to practice. This is the SQL section of the paper. So start with question 2.1.1, press pause, and I'll show you the memo. This was a different way of giving us the code. So you will sometimes see that this is the format in which it's given. Still, you only have to worry about completing that SQL line in the assignment statement. And we were asked to display all the fields, so you had to use a star from the table TBL players and then sort it according to the name in ascending order. So remember, order has a space between order and by, and then the field name according to which you want to sort by. And order by will always sort in ascending order by default. Here we need to display the name and date of birth of all those players that were born in September. So another hopefully 3 easy marks. So far we're up to 6 really easy marks. Push pause and try it yourself. Here there were 2 ways of completing this code. First was just to display the name for both of them and the date of birth. That stays the same in the select from TBL players. But in our where, we could have used the function month that extracts from a date time data type field the number of the month. So we could have said where the month is equal to 9. You could also have used a like, but you would have to include these slashes in your like. Else, if you only put the 09 there, it's also going to find days that contain 09 or years that contain 09. So if you're going to use the like, remember now you want the month, and that was in the middle between 2 slashes. And then any number of characters before and after, that's indicated by the percentage signs. And remember that when using like, all of this needs to be inside of these double quotes. So as you can see, using the month function is going to be easier than to use the like. Now is your time to practice 2.1.3, so push pause and try it yourself. Now we have display the average duration of the games for each day. Now already the wording each day is giving me a hint that I need to use a group by. The other hint is that I'm displaying a field and I have an aggregate function, and therefore I need to add a group by, and the group by will be on this field that I'm displaying. Take note of the value that must be rounded off to 1 decimal place, as you can see also in the screenshot. And here is the solution for 2.1.3. I'm displaying the game date. I'm calculating the average duration that had to be rounded off to 1 decimal place. And the heading had to be average duration with a space in between, so it was important to include these square brackets around that field name. And then these fields were all from the table called TBL games. And because I'm displaying a field with an aggregate function, I need to group by that field that I'm displaying. The question actually didn't ask us to display a space in between. This was just an example that I wanted to show you that if we had to put a space, there would have to be square brackets. But this solution didn't have a space, So there was no square brackets needed on either side here. So now press pause, try 2.1.4 to find the highest score. You might want to go back to the design of these tables to take note of where you find all these fields, because the name field is in the one table, but the scores are found in the other table. So therefore, we will have to make sure that we are reading from both tables. Also important is to note that you're displaying a field, and to find the highest score, we're going to use the aggregate function max. So therefore, again, a group by. So here we have the field name displayed, then the highest score using the function max score as highest score that I've misspelled. Don't worry too much for correcting it. As long as what you have typed there is very similar to what's on the screenshot, we're not going to mark you down for a spelling error or a typing in an R where there shouldn't be one. Now remember I said you're going to have to read from both tables because the name of the player sits in TBL Players, but the score is in TBL Games. And the moment we're reading from both tables, in our where the first condition would be the link, and these two tables were linked through the player ID field, and that's what I'm indicating here. Now remember, the name player ID appears in both tables. And when I'm reading from both tables and there's a field that appears in both with the same spelling, I do need to indicate which one I'm looking at the moment by having the name of the table dot and then the field name. So that's what I'm doing here. The link is from the table players.playerID, and that is equal to tblgames.playerID. And then finally I have to group by the name because remember we're displaying a field with the max score, and max is an aggregate function, so therefore I have to group by the name. Now remember, similar friends will go hang out, that the group by will have to follow the where. We can't swap these two around. And in this last button that you are going to practice, you are going to insert a new game. Read carefully and try it yourself. Just be careful, if you ran this program and you clicked on this button once, the second time you're going to click on it, it's going to crash and it's going to give you a runtime error because 76 is my primary key and I will not be able to add two records with the same primary key. If you now have the need to run this button again, the best would be to restore your database by clicking on the button available to you. That sets it back to the original state it was in, and then test it again. So remember to study your format for insert. It's insert into and then the table name, followed then by round brackets. And when you're coding, open and close these round brackets because that's something that you guys often forget to do. And then we list the fields here in any order. Then we have values, and after values we have another set of brackets here, and these brackets indicate the values. So for game index, duration and score, those were all just number data types. So in here I'll just type in the number and a comma. But player ID was a text data type, so therefore the value there must be in these double quotes. Game date is a date time data type, and therefore I have to add the date there between the hashes. So that's the end of the exemplar of 2018 question 2.1 dealing with the SQL. Next we're going to look at 2.2, which is the database programming, where we connect through the arrow tables. For more information on SQL, you need to go and have a look at my Dandelion Delphi book 2. Hope to see you soon.